Hello everyone and welcome to the Mindset Evolution YouTube channel. My name is Ava Taylor. I make videos around the mindset to start creating wealth, abundance, and freedom. So if that interests you, please do hit that red subscribe button down below and turn on bell notification so you don't miss any of my amazing videos. And most importantly, subscribe to the channel. It makes me happy, so I can keep making more helpful content for you guys. Thanks. Watch the entire video so you get to know the 5 tips to kick bad habits for good, narrated by the amazing author of Atomic Habits, James Clear. Tip number 1, create good habits.
And so the challenge for building good habits and breaking bad ones is often finding a way to pull the long-term consequences of your bad habits into the immediate moment, so you feel a little bit of pain right now and want to avoid it, and the long-term rewards of your good habits into the immediate moment so that you have a reason to repeat it again in the future. Each behavior casts a vote for the type of person that you want to become. And if you cast enough votes for that type of identity, you start to believe that about yourself, right? Like if you go to church for 20 years, you believe that you're religious. You study Spanish every Tuesday for 30 minutes, you believe that you are studious. So in that way, your habits provide evidence of your desired identity. And I think that that is probably the ultimate reason that habits are so important. It's true, like habits can help you earn more money or be more productive or lose weight. And all that stuff is great. But in addition to the external results that habits provide, they also shape your sense of self. They are the engine or the avenue through which you learn to believe things about yourself. Like sometimes people will say stuff like, fake it till you make it. But fake it till you make it is asking yourself to believe something without evidence for it. And you can do that for a little while. You could do it for a day or a week. But eventually, there's a word for beliefs that don't have evidence behind them. It's delusion, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're deluding yourself, then eventually you give up on that. But the power of doing a better habit each day or casting a little vote for that type of person is that now you have evidence to root your belief in.
Yeah, and so now I've done it for 6 months, yeah.
Right? Now you have a lot of evidence that you're a podcaster or a good interviewer. You do this over and over again. Each time you cast a vote for believing that about yourself. And you aren't delusionally believing that you're a good interviewer. It's because you've shown up and done it hundreds of times.
Right.
And so I think that that's true for any habit, large or small, that they provide evidence of the desired identity or the type of person that you are.
Tip number 2, there is gold in repetition.
There's this professor at the University of Florida. He's retired now. He was a photography professor. His name's Jerry Ulisman. And at the beginning of the semester, he would have this film photography class, and he'd bring the class in, and he would split them into 2 groups. And he said, everybody on this side of the room, you are going to be graded on the quantity of work that you do this semester. And everybody on this side of the room, you are going to be graded on the quality of work that you do this semester. And he further explained it by saying that for your film photography, you're going to be responsible for having 100 pictures. If you do 100 photos over the course of the semester, that'll be an A. If you do 90, it'll be a B. If you do 80, it'll be a C, and so on. So it's quantity. For this group, you only have to produce 1 photo, but it has to be the most perfect photo that you can make, the best photo that you can make. An interesting thing happened. At the end of the term, all the best grades came from the quantity group, not from the quality group. And what ended up happening was that while people were busy experimenting, making mistakes, learning how to play with composition and so on, they would come across a really great photo. And while the quality group was busy theorizing about what perfection would look like and how to take the perfect photo and not actually honing their skills, they ended up only making something mediocre or average. And the important insight here, especially for habits, is that in the beginning, the most important thing is just to shut up and put your reps in. Just make sure that you hone the skill, right? And you can start to think of it, the way that I like to think of it is that any outcome that you wish to achieve is just a point along the spectrum of repetitions. So if you have few reps to more reps, and you can imagine an easy goal, a moderate goal, a hard goal, the more reps that you put in, the more likely you are to achieve that goal. So maybe point A is, let's take fitness, squatting 100 pounds. Point B is squatting 200. Point C is squatting 300. Maybe you need to put in 100 reps or 1,000 reps to get to point A. Maybe it's 5,000 to get to point B. Maybe it's 10,000 to get to point C.
Tip number 3, throw away bad habits.
I think we actually have 3 options for breaking bad habits. So the first option is to reduce exposure.
So something like, if you want to stop spending so much money on electronics, then don't follow all the latest tech review blogs. Or if you want to lose weight, don't follow a bunch of food bloggers on Instagram. You're constantly being triggered by that and having to overcome the prompts. Now, that doesn't always work, but if you can cut a habit off at the source, then a lot of the time, the craving won't arise naturally. So in Atomic Habits in the book, I talk a little bit about this woman who she smoked while she was in college, and she would always smoke while riding horses with a friend. And so eventually at some point she quit smoking, and she also stopped, seeing that friend, and graduated from college and so on, wasn't riding horses. And then 10 years later, she got back on a horse for the first time and suddenly craved a cigarette. And she was like, what is going on here? And your habits are often tied to a context. They're tied to a situation or some kind of cue. And so if you can reduce exposure to that cue, then in many cases, the craving won't arise. So that's the first option for breaking a bad habit. The second option, which kind of sucks, but is to sit with the craving long enough to let this wave of desire ride itself out. And so you basically just resist temptation. It's possible. It's easier if your hand is forced, if you use what I call a commitment device. So, brief story real quick. Victor Hugo, famous author who wrote Hunchback of Notre Dame and a bunch of other things. Well, when he got the book deal for Hunchback of Notre Dame, he just procrastinated for a year. He hosted a bunch of house parties, has friends over. He went traveling for a little while.
He was balling.
He got the book deal. He did nothing, no work. And eventually his publisher got pissed off. They were like, can you please actually work on this? And so they set this ultimatum for him. And they said, we're gonna cancel the book in 6 months if you don't have it done by then. And so he got his assistant to come in, put all his clothes into a chest, and they locked him up and took him out of the house. And the only thing he was left with was this shawl, this large robe. So basically he had no clothes that were suitable for hosting guests or for leaving the house or going on trips or anything else. So he more or less put himself on house arrest. And what ended up happening was each time procrastination arose, he was able to kind of sit with that feeling and let it ride because he didn't really have many other options. And then he'd get back to work on the book. And it ended up working. He got the book done 2 weeks early. But things like that, where you can lock in your future action, and it becomes really hard to go to your friend's party or go out to, travel to a different place or whatever, just because you don't have the option. If you can increase the friction, then sometimes you can sit with the craving of a bad habit and let it ride out. So that's your second choice. And then the third choice is the one that you just mentioned, which is you take the solution that the bad habit is providing, the way that it's serving you, and you find a new behavior that delivers that same outcome.
Tip number 4, change your surroundings.
You have to be the victim of your environment. You can also be the architect of it. You can decide to design something to make your good behaviors easier and your bad behaviors harder. So when it comes to habits, if you want to practice your guitar more frequently, put it right in the middle of your living room so you run across it all the time. If you want to read more, when you make your bed in the morning, take the book you want to read, put it on top of the pillow. When you come back that night, pick it up, read a few pages, go to sleep. For me, I used to buy apples all the time, and then I would put them in the crisper at the bottom of the fridge, and they would sit there for 3 weeks and go bad, and I'd finally open it up and see them again and get mad. And then eventually, I bought a bowl and put it right in the middle of the counter, and so then when I buy apples, I put them there, I see them every day, and now I eat them all the time. Many of our desires are simply shaped because we have an environment that shapes us in that way. So the moral of the story is I've never seen someone stick to positive habits in a consistent fashion in a negative environment. Maybe you can overpower it once or twice. Maybe you can have the willpower to do the right thing on one day. But if you're constantly fighting against those forces, it's going to be very hard to follow through.
The final and personal favorite, tip number 5, challenge yourself.
So occasionally, and this is true for everybody, if you live long enough, life will come for you at some point, right? Something's going to happen. So occasionally life will stress you. But when life doesn't challenge you, I think it's important to challenge yourself, because otherwise you're just living in this optimal environment, air conditioning, and everything else is super easy. You can get all the information in the world at your fingertips. You never have to if you think about how crazy just eating is in the modern world. So previously, when we lived in tribes, you had to expend energy to get calories. At a minimum, you were foraging for berries, but otherwise you probably had to run something down and kill it, or part of a group hunt, or all kinds of other things. Now, you can get calories without expending any. All you have to do is just tap Uber Eats on your phone or something, and it'll show up at your door, and you can just sit on the couch, which is, of course, a recipe for poor health, but also the game has completely changed now. We've transcended a lot of our evolutionary programming and natural situations. And so you need to be careful about designing that to serve you rather than to work against you, because it can very easily nudge you in the other direction.
Hope you're all set to crush it and create the abundance you deserve through your new habit ideas. Let me know what new habits you are looking to build. Please subscribe, like the video, and comment down below. Cheers!